Hey, what is up, guys? I am not here. Hey, what is up, guys? Sorry for that. I know I'm not your happy-go-lucky Napa fan. No, it is me, Alex Bonsignore, and I welcome you to the second episode of the NRLOA RaceCenter Live. This is a big, momentous occasion for me because it's the first time I'm ever actually in charge of this. This is a big thing, especially in my position. This is nuts. It honestly is, and wow. Anyway, yeah. So we're gonna get some of the guys in here shortly. Sorry if Napa fan's not on. He couldn't make it, or he couldn't join at the moment, I should say. But he will be on shortly, so don't worry about that. But let's get some of the guys. Let's get some of the guys like Elijah Gordon and them all real quick because I know you guys really like to watch them or hear them. So they're gonna be kind of shocked to know that it's for the race center and not for something that I'm doing that's dumb. But anyway, so yeah, we'll get them in here shortly. This is really big for me. Anyway, let's get into the race news. We're heading into Kentucky this weekend. It's the I believe we are past the halfway mark of the season in the normal Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series schedule, which is um, which is pretty good. Don't get me wrong, but for a lot of teams, it's crunch time. We're looking at teams like Eric Jones, a lot of the guys that are running up front, like Jamie McMurray, all these guys. For them, it's a major crunch time because without the without the whole kind of win sort of basis or stage points, it kind of messes up their chances of making the chase, especially because of the amount of winners we've had this season so far. We've had a lot of first time winners this season. We've also had a lot of winners locking themselves into the chase. So for this upcoming year, I think that my prediction is that there will be a full 16 chase grid. We might be able to hit the full 16 cars for the first time ever, and I think it would be pretty cool. But that's not 100% sure for me. Like I can't say it's true and I can't say it's not true, but who knows? It could happen. It couldn't happen, but we'll see. We have a couple more rounds up until we head up to the final race. I can say that. But enough of what my predictions are. Let's head through the rest of the season as it goes, or the rest of this weekend as it goes. So coming into this weekend, we are in Kentucky. It's going to be all three touring national series are going to be there. The trucks, Xfinity, and the Cup. I know yesterday or today, Kyle Busch was the fastest in final practice. I don't know when final practice was it in. I can't remember if it was today or yesterday, but Kyle Busch was the fastest amongst them. So that's kind of the idea right there. Of course, if you've seen Griff Dog on his social media earlier, you would know that he's already made his predictions and the idea of who's going to win. So my question is like, who's predicting right and who's going to be predicting wrong? Because that some people are predicting like Kyle Busch would win it, others are saying someone else would win it, but in this case, I think it might be Kyle Busch. I mean, that's my personal opinion because he hasn't won this season yet. He's really kind of gone strong, and I honestly think he will win this race this weekend. But this all depends on how each driver is going to perform, how the racing's going to be, and most importantly, or most importantly, how is this race going to go out? Because I know for a fact that at least with the stage racing, that's going to make it more interesting because looking at the driver standing so far, Kyle Larson leads over Martin Truex and Kevin Harvick, and he's already got 2 wins this season. But the biggest thing is, will Larson pick up a third heading into Kentucky this weekend? Because Larson has already won 2 races this year at 2 different tracks, and they've all been at least 2-mile tracks. Let me see who joined real quickly. It's Daniel Voiles. Don't know why he joined. He's part of PCSRA. And this is strictly an NRLOA deal. Anyway, so yeah, Kyle Larson's only won on tracks over 2 miles. So that's Michigan, California. Those are the only 2 so far. But will he pick up his first 1.5-mile track victory? That's my question. Because if you really think about it, Larson has run really well on those 1.5-mile tracks in the Xfinity Series and even in the Cup Series. And remember that back in Vegas, in I believe it was early March, he finished second to Martin Truex. So Kentucky being shaped kind of like Martinsville, will Larson have a chance? That's the thing. Like, will he have a chance? Will he not have a chance? Who knows? But everything's going to kind of be the way it is from now until the end. But, yeah, so Elijah Gordon has joined us in the booth. Elijah.
You do realize I was watching the whole time,
Yeah.
so I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, so Elijah, let's base your opinion. So, do you think that Kyle Larson may get his first 1.5-mile track victory from what you've seen so far this season?
It looks like, just from what I've seen from his performances, it's more than likely you'll see him win at a 1.5-mile track soon. It could come here in Kentucky. It could come at Kansas in the future. It could come at Chicago. I mean, you never know where it could come from. But, I mean, I think Kyle Larson is probably going to be winning at a 1.5-mile track pretty soon.
All right, that's good. That's good to know. But also don't forget that this weekend we have a lot of competition, and don't forget that Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, they're the only 2 drivers that seem to be pretty dominant at Kentucky. So would Kyle Busch pick up his first win of the season, or would Brad Keselowski pick up a win this season for Penske? Those seem to be the only 2 top chances, especially with Kyle Busch racing in the Truck Series tonight.
Well, also keep in mind the Xfinity and Truck Series used to come here. Well, they do still come here, but they did this before the Cup Series came here in 2011. So those 2, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, they have Kentucky Speedway nailed down, and they know what they're doing once they go into the race in Kentucky. So it's not really much of a surprise to see one of them win.
Yes, but also don't forget that with this year being the stage racing format, what can we expect in this new stage racing format coming up in Kentucky?
Uh, the same thing that we've seen the whole entire first half of the season. Aggressive racing, just fighting hard for those stage points because every point counts towards the spot for the championship. And that's what some of these regulars have to do. They have to race hard, and even if that means having to take out probably one of the best at a certain type of racetrack, including Kentucky, that's what they have to do. They have to either do something in order to get those stage points. But I think, in my opinion, we might see Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski have trouble.
Yeah, and also don't forget that also with this weekend, mentioned earlier, can't remember what I mentioned earlier. It was something about this weekend, but it'll probably come back to me. But anyway, oh, I know what I was mentioning earlier. What I was mentioning earlier is that Now that we're close to halfway in the season, maybe even once we get past halfway, do you think that within these final 10 races or so, would we max out the field at 16 in the chase grid?
We could see that. We could see that.
Yes, and that's true because we have a lot of first time winners this season. Stenhouse just picked up his second career victory at Daytona, which I thought was pretty insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we all know my little outburst in the podcast. I don't know if you heard in the podcast because I know someone overlapped me, but I know Boyles heard it and he had a laugh about it.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah, yeah, Harry and Ron on their way to Hogwarts. I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, yeah. So looking ahead so far from this season and from Kentucky this weekend, let's see if I can pull up the stuff for the Xfinity series. I know weather is a factor this weekend in the Xfinities and for like all three touring divisions. We saw earlier that practice 1 and 2 is canceled for rain for the Xfinity series. Truck qualifying managed to actually get off tonight, but would weather also be a factor this weekend in the Kentucky race weekend?
Oh, it's probably going to be a huge, huge factor, especially because it would have been possible if this race were to be rained out, this truck race, then they some people have been saying tomorrow would be a doubleheader. But however, if both the races got rained out tomorrow, then they would have to reschedule the two races to Saturday and make it a triple header. But I mean, something might happen where I don't know, but you never know what's going to happen. But rain and weather can be a huge factor, and it can strike at any given point.
Yes, and you are definitely right, Elijah. Weather can strike at any given point, it can happen anywhere at any time. If you are watching this late at night, I do apologize. Napa fan kind of didn't really specify with me if I could start it or not, but I put it together. Hopefully, I did well for the kind of title making. I have to add in the thing later, or Napa fan might do that. I don't know. But anyway, Napa fan, unfortunately, like I said, couldn't make it tonight, so they had me do it, which I think is pretty cool that I actually do this. I hate, though, that he's not here because I would have liked for him to get his personal opinions, but,
Yeah.
that's how it is. But
Yeah.
anyway, looking ahead to the truck qualifying grid or order, qualifying order, we've seen that 34 trucks here tonight. Kyle Busch is in the number 46, but could someone outbeat Kyle Busch as like a truck regular? Like, could someone outbeat him?
Oh, I say the chances of that happening are probably slim to none because he's in a truck that only ran one race, and that was only with Todd Gillen. But it doesn't really make much of a difference of which truck for his team that he drives. He knows it's going to be fast either way. So the chances of somebody beating Kyle Busch or maybe um, finishing ahead of him is slim to none.
That is good to know. I know so far they're kind of warming up for the truck race or doing something like that. I don't know. But anyway, looking at the starting grid of what would have been for the truck race tonight, if the thing could load. Uh, Looking at qualifying results real quick. So Johnny Sauter had the pole, and it was Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe, Matt Crafton, Ben Rhodes, Myatt Snyder, Grant Enfinger. We actually had uh, Kyle Busch starting 27th. So could could Kyle Busch make some sort of factor coming out of nowhere from here? Like, could he just move up through the field like it's nothing?
Oh, we've seen him, so there really isn't much to say.
That's true. But yeah, I think this race will be pretty interesting tonight. But like I said, they're probably doing a warm up thing, or there's probably some rain that's delaying it.
They're doing driver intros right now.
All right, so it was a little bit of rain delay, but while they're doing driver intros, Elijah, let me take your quick pick here. Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to be the dark horse? And who's your underdog for the whole thing?
My driver to win. I I know I made picks for the podcast. I can't remember what they are, but I'm just gonna completely switch them up. So my driver to win, I would have to pick. Ooh, this is a tough one because you got a lot of good drivers out there. I would have to say Chase Briscoe is the driver to win because he's been one of the hottest drivers in the Truck Series so far, finishing second for a few races, and that just the performance that he's been really putting together these past few races has been remarkable. And I mean, he's really starting to establish himself as a rookie of the year contender and a driver that could probably compete for a title. So he's my driver to win for Kentucky. The guy that I think you should stay away from, I would say you would have to stay away from Noah Gregson. I mean, he's really I mean, ever since Daytona, where he wrecked, I believe, on lap 3, he's really kind of had somewhat of a dismal season. And just hasn't really uh, gotten up off the ground as of late. So he's really the guy that you shouldn't really expect much from in this race. But the dark horse, however, I think is going to be Matt Craft, and using that experience that he has in the Truck Series, I think he's probably going to use that to his advantage and move his way through the field and maybe get a good top 5 finisher, maybe a win.
That is a good pick, Elijah, and I will do my pick real quick. My driver to win, I'm going to go with Christopher Bell. He's starting on the outside row. It's a KBM truck, and I know Kyle Busch is pretty dominant, and he's my driver to stay away from, but I honestly think that with Christopher Bell, he's going to kind of be aggressive throughout the night and even hold off his car owner to pick up another win this season and hoping that it'll get him to victory lane. Like I said, the driver to stay away from tonight is Kyle Busch because, I mean, he is very, very good at the track. And I think with him, he's just going to move up through the field like it's no tomorrow.
Oh
And
yeah.
he's gonna come up out of nowhere and win. And in my dark horse, I'm going with Jordan Anderson because for the past few races now, this guy has honestly just been putting in results like it's nothing. Top 15s. I think he got a top 10 at one point, top 20s. He's doing very, very well for what he has at the moment because usually with him, if you follow him on his social medias, he shows up to the track in a gooseneck trailer and a truck. That's about it. That's only
Oh
his
yeah.
funding right there. So for him to put in these results for the amount of money and equipment he has, it's insane because I think he actually has a shot if like all these regulars just don't finish as well as they could. I think Jordan Anderson would have a shot at a top 10, top 5, heck, even maybe a win.
Oh yeah.
That day will come someday, but we just don't know when. And I'm hoping it's soon because he is honestly he has the performance for what he has, and he's been putting in the results. But with so many other good people with better equipment, I just honestly think that you know until like they all have problems, I think that Jordan Anderson will definitely be my dark horse tonight because even though like he has the equipment that he has and he's only been getting top 15s, I feel like tonight something's gonna change and he's gonna get that win out of nowhere. I honestly think that.
Yeah, but keep in mind, just for the team that he's driving for, they don't really have a whole lot. So I think what they will have to depend on is not only drivers making a whole lot of mistakes on the racetrack, but he also has to depend on those yellows to make sure that they go his way. He also has to depend on strategy in the pits, and if he does play his cards right, I think, yeah, I think I would definitely agree with you on that one. I think Jordan Anderson would be a good contender.
That's good to know. I mean, Jordan Anderson, he is this guy that, he gets along with his fans nicely, he talks with them. He's that person that you wouldn't expect a NASCAR driver to be. Because don't get me wrong, there are a lot of good NASCAR drivers, But Jordan Anderson, he's like a fan of NASCAR in a NASCAR seat. Like
Yeah.
he sees the fans' perspective, but he's on the track doing it. I am a good friend of Jordan Anderson. I've met him before. Really great guy. I met him back in August, and I saw him at the All Star race, and me and him caught up. And he was very nice about it. I told him, he's doing real good with the racing this year. So, that's why Jordan Anderson will be my dark horse and/or my picks to win, because not only is he a good racer, but he's such a nice guy that when you become a fan of him, you're not just a fan, you're a friend.
Yeah. That, I mean, yeah, just hearing that really makes me want to meet Jordan Anderson.
Yeah, like I said, he's a really nice guy. Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on to the Xfinity race this weekend. Like I said, practice 1 and 2, they were rained out. So qualifying has been moved to, I believe it's tomorrow. The Xfinity Series qualifying is. Um, take a quick look.
Yeah, you just came out of commercial break and then you go back in. Jeez.
Yeah, Xfinity qualifying is rescheduled, or practice 3 for the Xfinity Series has been postponed until Friday, July 7th, 8:30 to 9:55, which I don't think is right because the race is at 8.
Huh.
It's probably in the morning, and they just
Yeah.
made a typo.
I
But the
would.
qualifying would be at 4:30, it's it's really going to change it up, especially with if they get in this truck race tonight. What do you think is going to happen when the Xfinity cars head on the track tomorrow?
Well, there is going to be rubber on the racetrack, but you also have to keep in mind there could be there probably could be a cell of rain that could be in the area that we don't even know about. So if there is a potential chance of rain, I would expect all that rubber that the trucks have laid down to just wash right off, and maybe have the Xfinity drivers maybe have a little bit of a struggle on the racetrack because the pavement is still relatively new, and these drivers still have yet to get used to it.
All right, then. Good to know, Elijah, from that, because I think that is true. You never know that if there's going to be like a rain cell that's going to pop up and rain on the track and mess up the rubber. That's why, in specifics, that they postponed the practice to around the morning.
Yeah.
So, moving on to picks for the Xfinity Series. Giving you a little quick info, Kyle Busch is in the Xfinity Series, so that way, like, if you plan to make picks, that letting might give an idea. But who's your pick to win? Your driver stay away from, and your dark horse for the
Well,
Xfinity
my
Series.
my driver will win. He won it last year when he was in the Truck Series. I'm picking William Byron as the guy to win. I have a feeling that he did it once in the Truck Series in his first time out. I have a feeling he'll do it again in the Xfinity Series first time out.
Yeah, but also
John,
don't forget that also William Byron has won the past 2 weeks, so could he make it a third week?
yeah. I mean, first time out in Kentucky, so
Yeah,
in the
never
Xfinity
know.
Series. But also the driver to stay away from. Oh man, I have I have to think because I went for a driver that I didn't like the most because there's two in the Xfinity Series: Joey Logano and Kyle Busch. They're gonna be in the race tomorrow, so I'd have to pick the Candyman, aka the Crybaby,
Kyle
the
Busch.
man, the myth, the baby. And then the dark horse. Um, dark horse, I would have to say Matt Tiff because he is ever since as we got into the season, he has really started to pick up a lot, and I have a feeling that Matt Tiff is starting to get back into his his winning ways, just I have a feeling he could probably get a top 5.
That's good to know. That is great to know. And I believe he will get a top 5, or he may get a win, because remember, this is also a Joe Gibbs car. We've shown that he has the potential. He's just really got to kind of, as you said, he's growing, so he's just got to keep getting into his kind of his rhythm, and eventually he'll end up there in the top 5, or maybe even in victory lane. So I
Oh
can
yeah,
agree with you there. However, my pick to win is going to be Tyler Reddick, because he's done really good for Ganassi this year. He's really putting in a driving performance, but also that with some of the incidents that he's been caught up in before, like in Daytona and stuff, I honestly think that he does have the potential, but getting caught up in other people's incidences are what are holding him down right now. So for him to come to Kentucky, especially off his third place finish in Iowa 2 weeks ago, I honestly think that he'll catch up a win here, or at least a top 5. So because I think he's got the potential and he's got a perfect rhythm in it. He's just got to find the right strategy and miss kind of what are people running into him kind of like. And then my driver to stay away from, I would have to go with. Um, oof. I cannot think of who to stay away from. I'd have to go with Joey Logano, because, like you said earlier, Elijah, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, they have experience at the track before. Logano won here in 2008, and I think he won a few times afterwards. I'm not 100% sure. But, he because he's won here so much, and considering that there are Cup regulars in the field like Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, and Joey Logano, I honestly think that staying away from Joey Logano would be a good idea, because he's going to be moving up through the field and he'll probably win the race, but I can't be a guarantee. These are stage races that are going on, so who knows? Maybe the strategy will be mixed up compared to what happened last year, or maybe entering this year, it could be the
oh
same.
yeah,
And then, of
yeah,
course, my dark horse, I would have to. I'm going to be honest with you here. I'm going to have to go with Michael Annett, because with Junior Motorsports, he's done really good so far this season as to running with the team. And I honestly
right,
think that he's going to get a win soon, because, he's been putting in the performance. He's gaining back kind of his confidence from what happened in Cup with him up until now. I mean, just as he's gaining his confidence, he'll get a win eventually. I don't know when it'll be, but I know it's going to come eventually. It may come this weekend, or it may come within the next couple rounds, maybe even near the end of the year. But I know it's coming, and
yeah,
when it does, I'm gonna be the one to call it right there, because like I said, he's building up the confidence, and he's gonna try his hardest to go for the win this year, especially with the team that is kind of in help with Rick Hendrick, because he's kind of just he's kind of given a top performing team, and he's running really good with them so far. So I think he may do well in it.
yeah.
Yeah, so looking ahead in the Xfinity chase grid so far, if I can find the info for that. Uh, with the Xfinity grid being 12 drivers total, and Blake Cook being at the cut line, who do you think is going to make the chase coming in with these next few rounds, coming close to the end of the normal season into the playoffs?
Ooh, that's a really tough one because you got a lot of drivers that have that potential of making it into the chase for the Xfinity Series trophy. You know, because you got guys like maybe Blake Cook, who could be a potential dark horse. Um, oh, there's a lot. There's a lot. I can't even name a few more.
Cook is the only noted one I can literally come up with. Brendan Poole, another one. He could probably make it in. But there's just a lot of drivers that I can probably think of that may either make it in with only a few races left, maybe get a win with only a few races left in the regular season, maybe make it in. I think probably down to that.
And also don't forget, Elijah, that with Darrell Wallace now out of a ride because Roush has shut down their Xfinity team, that's basically like a one free up position to everyone who is behind him. So definitely don't count out someone that's out of the points. But honestly, I think with the chase, I think Blake Cook's going to be in it for the second time that it's been out because, that the team he has, it's worked. They've worked their butt off so much, and I think that as it goes on throughout the season and throughout the years, that this team is going to grow more. I know this year, though, that if they do make the playoffs, I honestly think that they're going to be a high contender, and they may even make it to the Final Four if they play their cards right, because they almost did last year until they kind of had a situation. But if that situation had gone, would they have won the championship?
Oh man, they probably would have, but they would have depended on strategy in the pits and all that stuff, and have the yellows go their way.
Yeah, and like I said, it's kind of something that, since they've taken notes on last year, they're going to try and do it this year again with those notes that they've done last year. So I honestly think that there's a good chance that Blake Cook may even make the chase again this year. And now we're going to quickly move on to the Truck Series points because, that's an even bigger thing with the truck points because, you got a lot of people moving in and out of the thing. But anyway, after Gateway back on June 17th, with usually 8 trucks, I believe, that are in the chase, right? Because it's 16, 12, and 8?
Yeah.
Okay, so with 8 trucks in the chase so far, John Hunter Nemechek is the cutoff. Ryan Truex is in. Grant Enfinger, Ben Rhodes, Matt Crafton, Chase Briscoe, Christopher Bell, and Johnny Sauter. But my question is, who has the better shot at making the chase on the outside cutoff? Because within the 4 positions, you have Noah Gragson, Kaz Grala, Austin Cindric, even Timothy Peters. And remember, Peters had basically just, he's lost his ride after Red Horse closed his stores. So who do you think has the good shot coming out of nowhere to make the chase this year?
Oh, man.
Oh, if I had to name one. Let me pull up Chase Grid. So that way I can kind of pinpoint who I think could be the best to watch out for. Let's see. Trucks. Standing. Alright. It's taking a little bit longer than what I expected, but for some of these drivers that I think could come out of nowhere and maybe make it in, I'd have to say Ryan Truex.
All right. I would say for a dark horse to make the chase this year would be Jordan Anderson. He's tied with Brett Moffitt currently in the standings in 18th. But as you can see, the chase grid cuts off at 280 at the moment. And with the consistency that Jordan Anderson's had throughout the past few weeks, and if he can keep up that consistency from now up until the last race before the chase, I think that even if he doesn't make the chase, which is probably a yes or no, like almost now a slim to none because he's 307 back from the leader, I think that if he does make the chase, that would be something very surprising because, the equipment that he's had and the team funding that he's had throughout the year this year. And for
Yeah.
him to make the chase, it would be a big surprise because, you don't see someone like Jordan Anderson make the chase out of nowhere, when they show up to the track in a gooseneck trailer. But, with that kind of shows that the very low budget teams, the average Joes, the common day man that works, they have a chance at making it. Because
Yeah.
if you look at a lot of people outside of the top three nationals and the local racing stuff, they're average Joes going to the track every weekend to do what they want to do for fun.
Oh yeah.
And at the moment, Jordan Anderson is like that average Joe that that's kind of like, he's kind of like that top average Joe. He's like the president of like underfunded drivers because,
Right.
like I said, he shows up to the track in gooseneck trailers. He runs his basically he gets funding from different teams just to field his truck into an entry or just to enter his truck into a race. I'm not saying this to be bad. I'm saying this like, this is what he does, and a lot of people back behind him for it. And I think it's something great because, you never see something like that. And I I would give him full respect, or I usually give him full respect every time I see him because he represents a person that works every day and then heads to the track on the weekends and do what he does for fun. And with the Truck Series being like a big top three tier team or a top three tier in the Nationals, to see him be like that, that's incredible because you don't see that in a normal person every weekend. You don't.
Yeah, you hardly ever see that, especially say in the Cup Series, for example. You hardly ever see that. But in the trucks, seeing Jordan Anderson being the guy that hard-working guy that he is, now that is a true reason.
Yeah. And of course, with the Cup Series so far, looks like everything seems to be pretty interesting throughout the season so far. And like I said, I covered it earlier that, to make it in on points so far, Eric Jones, because he's in, if you look at the way the standings are, you'd have to bump someone out and then try and get a win in order to lock himself in. And by bump him out, if you look at the points right now, Stenhouse is about 10 or 9 points ahead of Jones, or Jones is 10 or Jones is 9 points behind Stenhouse. But if Jones keeps up a consistency and then knocks Stenhouse out of the points, Stenhouse can still come back in with the wins.
Yeah.
But with Jones, he would have to enter in on points and then score a win out of nowhere in order to lock himself in, and then knock those out that don't have a win, like Chase Elliott, Jamie McMurray, Denny Hamlin, Clint Boyer, Matt Kenseth.
Well, you also have to keep in mind he's in the top 30 in points, so those wins will count.
That is true. That is true, but you're also looking at the people that don't have wins this year, or even, for that matter, playoff points. Because also don't forget that playoff points are a factor too into making it to the next round.
I mean, even if you look at the playoff points, because Ricky Stenhouse, I'm looking at it right now, 19th point standings, 395 points. He has 10 playoff points that he's got under his belt. However, if you look at Truex, he has 21 playoff points under his belt.
Yes, because Truex has got a total of 11 stage wins and 2 race wins out there out of nowhere.
So those points are, if he makes it to the Final Four, those are going to help him at Homestead.
Those would help him out a lot. I can say right now, just looking as if the Final Four were to happen, the Final Four would be Truex, Larson, Keselowski, it would be Truex, Johnson, Larson, and Keselowski. Because if you look at it, Truex is 21 playoff points. That would help him to his advantage. Johnson's got 16, and then Larson and Keselowski both have 13. So that would have been like if the season were to come to the Final Four at this race, that would be your Final Four. So
Oh yeah.
my question is, as it progresses throughout the next 9 or 8 races, with the playoff points that there are, who's gonna at this point start saying, okay, it's crunch time for this team. We have to go out there, score as many playoff points as we can, so that way once we get to the chase, we can be able to move on to the next round of each round and still have enough to make it to the Final Four.
Well, I can't say Truex because I think he's got enough playoff points, but you'd have to look at the drivers that have the least amount of playoff points. Like say, for example, like out of those 4, or the ones that have the playoff points.
Out of the ones that so far have the least amount of playoff points, you have Kyle Busch with 4, Harvick with 8, Elliott with 2, McMurray with 0.
I would have to look at the drivers that have some very, very low numbers. Like, say, for example, guys like Chase Elliott. He would have to work his butt off. That would mean having to win stages, be in the top 10 every single stage in order for those points to count. And he would also have to win those races so that way he's guaranteed a spot into the chase. So he would have to work as hard as possible. That way he can gain enough playoff points to kind of move through the chase.
Yes, and that is true. And I think I read an article through ESPN earlier on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it, Elijah, but NASCAR is giving thoughts of doing what the NFL, NBA, and MLB do and trade drivers. What's your opinion on that? Let me actually look it up real quick.
Oh, man. That's not a good idea. I'll just say, in my opinion, that's not a good idea.
Like I said, I saw this off of ESPN, although I'm not 100% sure if it was actually real because I saw it on Facebook or if it's not real. Okay, just found it 3 days ago on ESPN. Here's what the article says. It's time NASCAR owners embrace the idea of trades and make some. And it says in the article, one element of my job I enjoy most, the connections and interactions with coworkers, in particular, cross paths with analysts and other sports disciplines. And basically this goes on to say that, with these teams and drivers making connections with other teams and other drivers, it would basically give the idea, like, you look at Casey Kane, he's fallen off. He's fallen off in his career.
Right.
And if NASCAR were to do the idea of trading like they do in the NFL and the NBA, they would take Kane out of a Hendrick ride and then move him to a lower team, and then that driver from the lower team could move to the Hendrick car, and you would see a big difference completely.
Well, also keep in mind, it's not just if you switch the driver. It just depends on what type of equipment that they drive. So that's the thing that's showing that difference.
Yeah, and I'll give a perfect example here. You look at Matt DiBenedetto. I see him as someone who has full potential in racing. He races for Go Fast right now, so he doesn't have that much equipment that we really see that much in racing. But if we trade Kane to put him in the Go Fast car and see DiBenedetto in the 5, DiBenedetto would start scoring wins left and right because not only does he have the talent, but he also has the equipment. And you would see him completely light up the track and maybe even his first season with Hendrick win a championship because he has so much talent. He's a great driver. And it just, like you said, it depends on the equipment because, there are some people or some teams out there that have the best equipment, the best employees, the best machinery, and they're going out there and scoring wins like Hendrick, Ganassi, Gibbs, all these guys. But then you also got the lower teams like Go Fast, Premium, uh, Rick Ware, and all these guys who are trying their hardest to make races, but aren't really putting up the results that you would see in a top tier team.
Yeah, but here's another issue. If they do trade, if they were to able trade to trade De Benedetto and Kane, have Kane go fast, and have De Benedetto go to Hendrick, would that benefit Kane? That's my question to you, because Go Fast doesn't have the equipment like Roush or Penske has. They're just working with what they have.
Right.
So if you put Casey Kane in the Go Fast car, sure, he'll perform good, but that equipment is going to eventually run out on him, and then it's going to destroy his career a little bit more. So it would benefit him in the race run, but it just wouldn't it just wouldn't help him in the end.
And trust me, I think that is 100% true. But with this example, I kind of just showed, like, someone on a low-tier team come up through the ranks. And I know that you understand that, but, yeah like you said, equipment will run out eventually. But, with these charter teams, hopefully, like, now, some of these team owners that are, like, low budget and stuff like that will kind of come together and think of an idea like, hey, we'll trade you this driver. In return, we get some equipment or something like that. Because you look at some of these teams, like, that are low budget, and you see that they're not performing well. Well, with this trade deal, will they be trading drivers, but will they also be trading, like, some help as well? Where, like, with Penske, let's use the Go Fast example again with what you said with Penske. We'll kind of see, like, hey, we know that, say, for example, Keselowski hasn't been performing well. We'll trade you to Benedetto, but in return, we want Brad and maybe some of your equipment so that way we can kind of help him keep his confidence up in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, true. And also, for me, I'm a guy that works hard to get what he wants.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to be simply handed an opportunity, because then that wouldn't be right for me. So if I was Matt DiBenedetto, I would stick with what I have and just work with what I've got. Or if I was a guy that decided, hey, this is a window of opportunity, it's reaching out to me. Should I take it? I would be a guy that says no. This says no. I'm going to work for that opportunity. I want team owners like Rick Hendrick or maybe Roger Penske to notice what I'm doing and say, hey, even though I'm driving for a small team that doesn't really have a whole lot, I can still race. I can still put those top 10s together. I can still win. You just don't really see that.
Yeah, and that is a perfect example. But hopefully, if NASCAR takes into consideration of the idea of trades, we'll see how that turns out within the future. But for right now, they're giving it the idea, and we have not heard from any other team owners. I believe we haven't heard team owners come out and say, I completely embrace this idea or something of that nature. But we'll keep an eye out throughout what it says, and let's see what we can do.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I think that pretty much wraps up this stream. I want to thank Elijah Gordon for coming on. I want to thank everyone who tuned in for this. This is my first go-around on this. Hopefully, Napa Fan can be back next week if he's more free, and hopefully I'll be on there with my own channel so that way I can kind of just talk with him. I know this was a blast hosting it today, but I feel like if I do this every week, I'll just keep forgetting on it. Don't forget to tune in to my channel podcast, the NRLOA Home Tracks news stream. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Alex Bonsignore, aka the NRLOA official YouTuber, and I will see you guys in the next stream. So we'll see you then.